Alright, so I wanted to do another video, and this video I wanted to do on, man, an artist who gets a lot of shit. John Romita Jr. I hear a lot of people say, like, oh, nepotism, and he's not that good of an artist, and stuff's too blocky. And to those people, I say, you know nothing about art. Because John Romita Jr., in my opinion, is... Let me put it this way, I think he's far better than any of the guys who drew at Image. So like Jim Lee, Mark Silvestri, because I know those two are brought up a lot. Todd McFarlane. Everybody has an opinion about Rob Liefeld. I'm not gonna put my opinion on Rob Liefeld because it'd be a broken record at this point, you know, because so many people don't like Rob Liefeld, and I can completely understand why people don't like him. John Romita Jr., on the other hand, is one of those weird ones where I'm like, I don't understand why people don't like him. And I think as we go on, like as time goes on, people are appreciating him a bit more. But the reason why, and I'm going to have to get an example here, and I should have actually gotten this beforehand. I'm going to only get up and get it, and I'll explain why. So, a lot of people don't like John Romita Jr. because they think his work is too blocky. So, I'm going to tell you why they're fucking stupid. There's a book called Bridgman's Life Drawing by a teacher named George Bridgman. And he was a teacher from, I want to say, the 30s, 20s, somewhere around there. And he's a guy who was a teacher of many known artists, some of them being guys like Norman Rockwell. He was also a teacher of, I believe he was a teacher of Andrew Loomis as well, who also did a figure book. He was a teacher of, who else is there? I know Frazetta was a big fan of Bridgman. Basically, every artist who came out in like the 40s and, you know, beyond, up to this point, were either taught by Bridgman or picked this book up and learned everything they needed to know. And the reason why John Romita Jr. is, in my opinion, one of the best artists is because he literally takes what George Bridgman teaches you literally. And what George Bridgman teaches you is he teaches you that form, and I know this has nothing to do with John Romita, so we're just going to get, well, it does, but whatever. We're going to get to John Romita in a second. But basically what George Bridgman teaches you, he teaches you there that all the body parts have forms, and your job is to take these forms and then, you know, put them together. And I'm trying to get to the page where he goes over the forms. This might not be the book, and if it's not, I apologize. I probably should have had this ready before I started the video, and you're probably bored as fuck, and I promise you we will get to my point in a second. So George Bridgman goes over the forms of the body. You know, the neck is round, the top is square, the stomach area is round, the pelvis is square, you know, the top of the leg, thigh area is round, the knee is square, the bottom of your leg is triangular, the beginning of your foot is a square, and then for some reason he forgot triangular as well, but basically the bottom of your foot is a triangle. The reason why John Romita's stuff, and obviously, as you can see there, the head is square. The reason why John Romita's Jr. stuff is so square-like and so blocky is because he's literally taking what George Bridgman is teaching you, literally. I can guarantee you, I wouldn't, if I had a gun to my head and they said, "Are you certain that he was a George Bridgman? He learned from George Bridgman?" I couldn't promise it, but I have a very strong feeling he was a George Bridgman. He learned from George Bridgman's books. His father, on the other hand, his stuff isn't as blocky, and it very well could be that he just figured out how to go from form to anatomy perfectly. I'm not sure, but Bridgman's whole entire thing is he teaches you that anatomy is a bunch of forms combined, and you need to figure out what those forms are, and I'm going to kind of give you the understanding of how you get there, and blah, blah, blah. So, back to John Romita Jr. We are 5 minutes into the video, and I haven't even touched John Romita. I had to look at the time. We are 5 minutes in the video, and I haven't even touched John Romita. So, and this book is going to be very awkward, so this is probably going to be one of my worst videos, but I apologize. Because they have to pick the weirdest fucking... so I'll have to constantly move the pages. But John Romita Jr. to me is a guy that will tell you everything that you need to know on the page. And I would honestly even say, if you want to learn to draw, and you want to learn how to... Because there's Bridgman books, and if you're not an artist, I'm sorry, because I totally alienated you, and we'll get there. But we'll get you in the video in a second. But if you want to learn how to become an artist, and you want to learn George Bridgman, John Romita Jr. puts that on the page for you, believe it or not, and says... He basically teaches drawing like it's a language. And he goes, I'm going to tell you where the lines are, and you have to find them. And they're going to be there, and you're going to learn a lot from it. So he basically cuts all the stuff out that makes drawing look like an illusion. Or makes it, I don't know, what's what I'm trying to say? Like, makes it look like... He tells you the magic trick, basically. We'll just put it that way. And that's why I love John Romita Jr. so fucking much. Because... he is a learning artist who also just happens to be one of the best artists to come out probably in the past 40, maybe even 50 years. So we're going to take a look at this stuff. Obviously known for being an Iron Man. I'm going to have to constantly move this page, so get used to this noise because it's going to be a bit of an ASMR video, I guess, as well. Known for Iron Man. I think he started on Iron Man. I could be wrong. Great fucking Iron Man artist. So yeah, known for being a great Iron Man artist. What a great character for him to do as well, because Iron Man's kind of like this blocky kind of character. And again, John Romita Jr. is not a blocky artist. People say he's blocky. I see nice curves of the arm there. Just great. I mean, that's a great drawing. I mean, I don't understand how you can look at that and go, that looks like shit. It doesn't look like shit. It doesn't look bad at all. His art has definitely changed over the years, that's for sure. But, it's just great stuff here. I hate all this word shit. I don't want to fucking see words. Marvel, when you're making books, I'm not buying them for words. If I'm buying an art book, I'm not buying them for words. So anyways, and unfortunately that's the problem with the entire book, is that like, oh, you get a lot of word, but we'll get there. So we're going through his 1981, 1990 stuff. Great Storm. I think that was, I forget who made Storm that way. It might have been John Byrne. Not entirely sure. But I like John Romita Jr. better than I like John Byrne, believe it or not. And the other thing about him is you know, his father had that iconic Spider-Man look. That, like, we kind of, like, everything that you see has Spider-Man on it. You know, it's John Romita Sr. But John Romita Jr. also has a very iconic Spider-Man as well. I mean, look at this. This looks absolutely great. How can you look at this stuff and tell me that you don't love John Romita Jr.? Oh, but his art changed. Yeah, and that's fine, but, I mean, look at this. You're going to tell me that that looks bad? Who thinks that looks bad? And this is before he becomes the artist that he is now, where I think he's actually better now. I think digital color hurt him a lot. But I think that the stuff that he puts out now is like the dream of an artist. Draws great women, too. Absolutely great women. He had Alfredo Cava ink his stuff. Great inker. I will say one thing about John Romita Jr. He definitely had great inkers. And it definitely brought his work out. But that doesn't take away from how great of a fucking artist he is. I mean, I don't like that hair on fucking Iron Man. I have to keep moving this, sorry. But man, look at that. I mean, that's Kirby-esque shit right there. You know, he's a guy, look at that. Look at that. Oh man, look at that. Look at that Iron Man falling. I love the figure in motion. There's just nothing quite like it. There's absolutely nothing quite like it. Better get used to that noise, I'm sorry. How can people say that John Romita Jr. looks like shit? Man, look at that. I'm honestly gonna go out on a limb and say I think I like his artwork better than John Romita Sr. And people probably tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about, but man, I mean, he drew great stuff. Look at that. Look at that Iron Fist. Absolutely amazing. How can you not like his work? I'm so happy I picked this book up too. It's a great book. Absolutely great book. That's how you make a living as an artist. Put your shit here, and then leave this area empty. And then you do, for every piece, you get, for a piece like that, you gotta do 100 of these. Great drawing. I love that Cyclops. He's got great Daredevil too, and this was before he did it with Miller. Man, just, he had that Marvel style down perfectly. Absolutely perfectly. Just great. I mean, he does the knees just like his father does. I look at the knees and I go, I need to figure out the knees. He does the kneecap just like his father. He doesn't do the split in the knees. He just does a solid square and boom, you're there. Just an understanding of form. And from what I've heard from, watching interviews with John Romita Sr., John Romita Sr. didn't give him any advice because John Romita Jr. didn't ask him for any advice. He just kind of became an artist and wanted to become an artist on his own. And man, I don't know how he did it, but he learned. I mean, that's a great Spider-Man. And there's so much movement. It's not stiff. It's absolutely amazing. Sorry, you might hear a drop. Let's move this over here. Maybe we can have more room here, and then it won't be so annoying. Great Spider-Man. I mean, I love the movement. I love and I mean, just look at that. He's got his hand. I mean, the movement. The neck is back. He's covering his neck. He's covering his head. The neck is back. There's just so much force. There's so much weight. I am a huge John Romita Jr. fan, and I think that if you want to sit there and badmouth John Romita Jr., you have every right to. But I don't understand it. I don't get why people don't like him. I don't get it, and I can tell you a million reasons why I think he's great. And the other thing is you want to talk about John Romita Jr. There is no person who draws New York City better than that guy, and I mean that. I mean, he loves New York City, and all these characters, a lot of the stuff that they do takes place in New York City, and man, he's got that down pat. I'll tell you that. Great covers too. I mean, how can you not like that? But we're going to get to his later work, and we're going to look at that, and we're going to see maybe that's where, maybe he got lazy. That's a possibility. But I don't think so. I also have another John Romita Jr. book that I'm going to go through as well at some point. And because I'm a huge fan of his. I mean, you can definitely tell. And the thing is him and Frank Miller came out around the same time. And those two are fucking heavyweights in this industry. I mean, he draws a great Peter Parker, great Mary Jane. Very modernized, not like stuck in the 80s or stuck in the 70s. Great Daredevil. I love his Daredevil with Innocenti. I mean, look at that. So we're starting to see like that more cubic thing, cubic forms. It's fine. It's fine if you don't like that, but you're going to honestly tell me that doesn't look great? Man. Look at those covers. Oh, man. It's absolutely amazing. It screams the fucking 90s, too, and the 80s. 80s, 90s. But it's good. I'm not saying that in a bad way. It's great. 80s. Because it's 1981 and 1990. Shotgun. Stupid fucking character. Just a weird decision, but whatever. I think he's only in like three issues, but great looking character. Love that. You need to know how to draw Daredevil kicking and doing that. If you don't know how to do those two fucking drawings, those two gestures, you can't do Daredevil. I mean, that's Daredevil in a nutshell there. We're going back to Iron Man. So good he came back. Great pieces. Man. I love that. You tell me that doesn't look good. Alright, so we're getting into 2000s. 1991 to 2000. So we're going to start getting into that more blocky John Romita Jr. Great. I'm going to go on a limb here, and I'm going to say best Punisher. Best Punisher, I think, of all time goes to John Romita Jr. And when I think Punisher, I think JrJr. Great Wolverine, too. Yeah, look at that. I love that piece. I actually have that piece here. Hold on. I have the comic book too, but I'll show you the piece. See if I can ever find it. I should have all this shit ready beforehand. I should have the shit ready beforehand. Alright. The light's right in the way. Great fucking piece. I should have just brought out the comic, but then I'd have to, like, go find it, and I'm not in the mood to do that. Anyways, man, great Punisher. I love that. That's a great piece. I mean, how can you look at this and tell me that it doesn't look great? And Cable, he did an awesome Cable. Again, very square-like. It's all there that you need to know. Man, look at that. What a great drawing. That's an interesting drawing. But none of this looks bad. It looks, most of it looks great. Love that. I mean, I love this dude's art. I absolutely do. I think it's just amazing. Now we're getting into Daredevil Man Without Fear. Who inked this, by the way? It was Al Williamson. Makes sense. That's a great piece. I love that piece too. I mean, man. Great Elektra. Great Rain too. John Romita Jr. just does do great Rain as well, and I definitely think that went over. Oh man, look at that piece. We're not going to be able to get that full blown, but we're going to have to move it. Look at the movement of Daredevil. The other thing you notice is I never even noticed this. It's the old costume, slightly newer costume, boom, newer costume. Going back to Spider-Man. That's a great fucking piece. That's like Ditko when Spider-Man is kind of lifting up the what is it? Lifting up something. I can't remember what he's lifting up, but when he's in the water, he's got to lift himself out. Maybe it's a pipe. I mean, look at that. He's pulling with all his force. Man. That's a great piece, too. I mean, you can tell me that this doesn't look good. Come on. That's a great piece, too. Great Thor. He drew so many great characters. So many great characters. Drew a great Cap, too. I think it's the first time I've seen Cap in this book, I believe. So I gotta look at the screen and in the book, because I want to kind of drink in the book as well. Man, look at that. That's a great piece. I think digital color did hurt him a lot. But I mean, then you look at a piece like that and you go, did it really? And I don't know if it did, actually. I can definitely see Bridgman in his work for sure, the artist I was talking about in the beginning. Back to Spider-Man. I mean, if your last name is Romita, you got to be doing Spider-Man, right? Back to Iron Man, I believe. Did he do Iron Man another time? No. He did Hulk for a little while. Not my favorite Hulk artist. Probably not even in my top fucking 20 favorite Hulk artists, but still did a great job. I think digital definitely, like I said, digital definitely hurt him, for sure. But still looks great. Still looks amazing. I just don't understand why people don't like his work. I don't get it. I'm trying to figure that out. If you don't like John Romita Jr.'s work, put it in the comments and tell me why you don't. Because I saw some fucking moron on YouTube. And I was thinking about doing a reaction, but I don't want to become like a fucking drama channel. Some moron who did a video on John Romita Jr. and said, I don't like his artwork. His artwork just looks like shit. Here's a reason why. It just looks like shit. Well, I don't. It's not enough. I mean, you're gonna tell me that that looks like shit. The motion, the weight of punching that guy in the face, and then again, it's always these people who aren't fucking artists who always knock people like John Romita Jr. Find me a fucking artist who's better than John Romita Jr. right now. Who's? I mean, sure, you could probably pull out, guys who worked before him, but I mean, it's like you're gonna try to tell me that the fucking image guys are better than him? I don't think so. I know everybody likes to fawn over Jim Lee. I like Jim Lee. But do I think that Jim Lee is a better artist than John Romita Jr.? I don't fucking think so. I don't think so. I mean, look at that. Come on, man. Look at that. The muscles are pulling back as he's trying to get out of there. He knows exactly what the anatomy is supposed to do as you pull back. That takes a great artist. Not everybody in comics can do that. Hopefully you can see that with these fucking terrible, terrible, terrible fucking pages of just, what the fuck? Is it the light? I don't know. Yeah, sorry about that huge light in the middle. I'm going to try to show this off without there being huge lights. I hate this glossy fucking paper. I can't stand it. But anyways. And then we got a piece like that. That's a bad artist. Is it busy? Sure. Does it read? Absolutely. Don't fucking tell me that John Romita Jr. is a bad artist. Don't. You're wrong. I will say one thing. There's a weird triceps going into the elbow. I think the proportion might be a little too long there, or the tricep might be too long. It looks like a noodle. I will say that that looks bad. But I pointed out artists who people would say, who fawn over and say the greatest artist in the world. And I've said, there's a few pieces there. Like, for instance, in one of my videos, I said John Buscema's proportions are off. So what? You're working on a fucking schedule. You gotta get it done. And then you get a piece like that, and you just gotta fucking look at that rain. Look at how the rain comes off the fucking cloth and the fabric. Look at the fabric. I mean, look at that. You're gonna tell me that looks fucking bad? Who the fuck thinks John Romita Jr. looks bad? Is that a fucking... Oh, I was gonna... Okay. Alright. I was like, did they put a fucking bat? And then I'm like, oh no, moron, it's Wolverine. And then I love how people go, well, it's not, John Romita Jr. is not, at least he's not like Rob Liefeld, I guess. It's like, shut the fuck up. Rob Liefeld couldn't draw like John Romita Jr. if he had 500 years to draw a fucking page, and 95% of it was drawn for him by John Romita Jr. Fucking great Elektra. I love his Elektra. I love his Daredevil. One of my favorite Daredevil artists. Like I said, my favorite Punisher artist. Black Panther. I never knew he did Black Panther. And he was inked by Klaus Janson. Holy shit. Very cool. Digital art, or digital color, not a fan of. Because I think it just makes everything look sterile. But it's fine. Great fucking Black Panther. Love it. Absolutely amazing. Not a big Black Panther fan. I just don't think that there's like any storylines that Black Panther has had that I'd find interesting. So it's just me. Again, not a I don't go out of my way looking for Black Panther comics. So maybe there's some amazing, series that I'm missing. Um, Great stuff. The Eternals. He did that with. Was that Neil Gaiman that he did Eternals with? Anytime you're being inked by Klaus Janson, that's fucking great. Because Klaus is unbelievable. Man, I could look at JrJr's artwork all day. Just absolutely amazing stuff. Just great. I hate that there's just that one fucking light. And it's not this light. So I don't know what the fuck. It's probably the light from my room. Sorry for that light in the middle. I'm going to try to move it around so you can kind of see. You're just Fantastic Four, man. Great. I love that Sue Storm there. Yeah, I mean, his heads are very blocky, but he's a Bridgman guy. You can definitely tell he learned from Bridgman. I think his father was more of a... I don't know who his father learned from. Maybe he was more of a Loomis guy. Maybe he was... I'm not sure. I'm not sure. His father's stuff is a lot prettier. But then again, I look at his stuff and I go, is he really that much prettier? Because I don't think so. So we're getting into his much later stuff, his X-Men stuff. Mighty Avengers. Back to Spider-Man. That's a great fucking Spider-Man. Do you know how difficult that is to draw? That leg looks a bit weird, I will say that. That leg does look a bit weird, but whatever. Man. Great fucking Mary Jane. Back to the Punisher. Still draws a great Punisher. I mean, come on. Look at that and tell me that looks like shit. There's no way that you could tell me that looks like shit. I love it when Punisher and fucking Wolverine meet up with each other. They're just such fucking great characters together. Kind of like Spider-Man and Daredevil. I can't wait till we get to the black and white art. That's what I want to see. I'm excited for the black and white art. Alright, here we go. We're going to have some sketches and pencils here. This is the stuff that I live for. This is the stuff that I'm like, okay, this is why I bought the book. So I'm excited. I've not looked at this yet, so I don't know. Oh, I'm very excited. Man, what a great fucking Thor piece. Interesting that they start with Thor, by the way. Some great Wolverine stuff. I love that you get to see the thumbnails. Great Daredevil and that thumbnail. I love to look at the preliminary arts because you can kind of see where, it's really important to kind of see how an artist works because you can kind of use those skills for yourself. And then, you have your, off screen. You have your pencil of this, or your, the preliminary, and then this is where you get to. So, great. Absolutely great. I wish they had shown, like, the pencils of his earlier stuff. But it still looks great. Then again, I actually like it on the older stuff because I feel like the newer stuff, I mean, because I feel like the newer stuff, a lot of his art is ruined by the digital color. That's a great fucking Black Panther. I love how you get to see preliminary, Pencil sketch, inks. Some character concepts. So I imagine, just for the Eternals, I imagine Neil probably sent him a thing, hey, you know, can you make it like this? Look at that. Look at that pencil drawing right there. I wish this fucking wasn't glossy paper, man. I hate glossy paper. Why does everything gotta be done with fucking glossy paper? Just give me some matte shit and I'll be good. Man, look at that fucking Hulk. You gonna tell me that's a bad Hulk? Come on now. Come on. There's that drawing of that leg that looks weird. I will say that leg looks weird, but it still looks great. And that's the thing, is sometimes when you're an artist, you don't need to get the anatomy correct, you just need to get the point across. I look at that and I know that's a leg. So John Romita Jr. did his job. There's never a time where you're looking at a piece that John Romita does and you go, what the fuck is that? You get that with other artists. I'm not going to name any artists that you get that with, but you get that with artists. You do not get that with John Romita Jr. And I'm sorry, but who has a more iconic fucking Spider-Man than John Romita Jr.? Probably John Romita Sr., but other than that, fucking amazing Spider-Man artists, and you cannot deny that. He uses a square to get the butt of Spider-Man. It looks a little wide, but it works. It just fucking works, and that's the thing that I love about John Romita Jr. That's the thing I love about artists. When you can fucking when you can use something that makes me go, I see it, I get it, it makes sense, it clicks. And there's so many John Romita pieces that you just look at and you go, oh, I know this forms a cube, and I know this forms this, and then you put it all together. It reads. It's like, what can I say? It's like John Romita Jr. is like, you know, I don't know, what's a good example? Like a writer that doesn't overly challenge you, but still gets a point across where it makes you think. And that's what John Romita Jr. is to me. He's not trying to be over convoluted. He's just trying to go, I'm drawing this drawing, and that's that, and it looks like it's supposed to look. It moves the way it's supposed to look, and it works the way it's supposed to work. And that's just how John Romita Jr., you know, is for me. And that's why I adore his fucking art. I didn't even talk about his use of perspective. Dude has amazing use of perspective. Alright, so we're going to get to covers, which I'm very excited. Only 35 cents for this Avenger. It's pretty cheap for Avengers back then. So he's been working since, like, what, 70s? Yeah, so 78. 78. Oh, man. I love those Iron Man covers. Man, you're gonna tell me that didn't make fucking kids in the fucking in the 80s go, holy shit, I'm buying that comic. Come on now. Come on now. And I want to see how well his Iron Man sold compared to everyone else's Iron Man. Because Iron Man is one of those characters, when his book comes out, it gets to like issue 5 or 6, and then it just fucking gets canceled. I don't know why, like when they try to reboot Iron Man and shit, and it just does terrible, and I think it's because Iron Man's a boring fucking character. But when John Romita Jr. is on it, it is not a boring character. And granted, it got up to like issue something when he was on it, like in the hundreds or some shit. But, yeah. Iconic fucking 238. Everybody loves this issue. It's a fine issue. Love that X-Men. Love that X-Men piece. Man. His Daredevil. Amazing. I think I have a couple of these issues, actually. The Punisher Warzone stuff we'll see in a minute. I love that. Love that cover. Man, I love that cover. I love the Warzone covers. I think they're all great. I love how Iron Man is just like there with Punisher Warzone. The Cable cover, I think that they were like, we need you to draw like Rob Liefeld, and then he drew better than Rob Liefeld, and they were like, can you just make it look shittier? And he was like, sure. And then the next issue, they were just like, yeah, just do whatever the fuck you want. We don't need you to look like Rob Liefeld anymore. We actually, and that's, you know, that could be, you know, that can cause real problems. If somebody told me to draw like Rob Liefeld, I'd be like, okay, you know what, I'm not doing this issue because I don't want to make myself a shittier artist. Uncanny X-Men number 300. Fucking iconic cover. Man, so many great. I didn't realize how many covers he did. A lot of great covers. I know, it's really easy to knock on Rob Liefeld. I don't know. The funny thing about Rob Liefeld is, and I know this isn't a Rob Liefeld commentary, but Rob Liefeld drew some great shit in the beginning, and then he just fucking was like, I don't want to draw good anymore. And people kind of just accepted it. And it was at the height of him making all of his money. And then it caught up to him because he fucking couldn't sell a book. It fucking was 10 cents. Anyways, here we go. Some more stuff, some later covers. Digital color kind of ruined everything. And then, of course, the iconic Spider-Man 600, which I did not buy his cover. I bought somebody else's cover. I can't remember who it was when it came out. And then we have a Spider-Man pencil drawing that just looks fucking amazing and a great way to end the book. Man. So that is John Romita Jr. Fucking amazing artist. I don't know how anybody could not see it. If you do not think John Romita Jr. is a great artist, like I said, just leave a message or leave a comment and let me know. Maybe you know something that I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm an amazing artist because I'm not. But when I look at his work, the only thing I can think of is this is a guy that you learn from. There are some artists out there that you do not learn from because their shit is just so... What's the words I'm trying to think of? It's so heavily detailed, but then again, his stuff is heavily detailed too. I don't know. I just think that he takes all the things that you learn from drawing when you first start drawing, and he continues to keep them, and he shows them, and he doesn't. I don't know. He's just, to me, he's just a great artist that you learn from. Basically, that's the way I'm gonna put it. It's just like art is a language, and he really just kind of spoon feeds it to you, and that's what I love about his work. I mean, I remember before I became an artist when people would badmouth me, his art looks good. I don't know why people don't like him, and then I started drawing a while back, and I looked at his art again, and I went, no, he's an amazing artist, and here's the reason why. And like I said, I didn't even talk about his perspective. He does a really interesting perspective. He draws great figures, great action, great motion, great expression, great form, great anatomy. It's not always perfect. I would say anatomy is probably the weaker part of him, but it's still great anatomy. And again, his father was a great artist, and his father drew great anatomy. He drew good anatomy. Did he draw like amazing anatomy? There were some pieces where his anatomy would look great, and then there's some pieces where his anatomy would look like it was off. But that's every artist who works in the business, and I'm a huge John Romita Jr. fan, and I will always be a huge John Romita Jr. fan. And yeah, if you haven't looked at a lot of John Romita Jr.'s art, I would definitely advise you to look at it. His older stuff, I prefer his older stuff because I just prefer older comics. But his new stuff looks great. So, I don't know where all this hate comes from. But, wow, we are on 32 minutes just for this video. And I had a beginning for another one. So, I'm going to cut it there. That is John Romita Jr. Great fucking book. The Marvel art of John Romita Jr. I hate the fucking size of it, but I get why, because you want to open it up and you want to look at it, and I mean, that's a great piece right there. I could open up this book to any page and you'll have a great piece. So, alright.